Good evening, everyone. It is currently May 15th, 2024, and I want to provide some updates on the wildfires of note here in Alberta, but also want to touch on British Columbia and Manitoba as well. So first off, I want to speak on Fort McMurray, Alberta, and the wildfires burning in this area. Now, as many people know, certain neighborhoods in the city of Fort McMurray were under an evacuation order yesterday. They evacuated to Lac La Biche, Cold Lake, Edmonton, and some other places as well. Now, thanks to a favorable shift in winds, the fire MWF-017, which is also the fire that triggered the evacuation of the residents, did not move any closer to the city of Fort McMurray or Highway 63. It mostly pushed to the western flank of that fire. But also today, we've seen the start of MWF-024, which was initially out of control at 0.96 hectares. Now, this fire occurred just north of Parsons Creek and about 2.5 to 3 kilometers from the nearest residence on the north side of Fort McMurray. But luckily, with the air support that was already in the area, they were able to quickly action this fire using tankers, helicopters, and also ground crews as well. And just for reference, here's a screenshot of how far away it was from the residences. Please note that the OHV staging area is close by, and there's also a power line that runs along this right of way here, which are all possible causes. The cause of this fire is still under investigation at this time. And here's an update from the RM of Wood Buffalo detailing the size of the fire and what resources they had to take it from an out of control status down to being held. Now, some of the cliff notes on the larger wildfire, the MWF-017, it's still measured at 21,000 hectares. Updated size hasn't been provided as of yet. As of 6:30 p.m. today, the closest point of the fire still remains at about 5.5 kilometers from the Fort McMurray landfill and 4.5 kilometers from the intersections of Highway 63 and 881. The wildfire was active today, but much less active than yesterday, thanks to cooler temperatures, weaker winds, and smoke cover. Firefighters were back on the fire line today and worked on establishing a containment line. As you remember, they pulled firefighters off the line yesterday due to the extreme fire conditions, so they've resumed operations today. Helicopters and air tankers dropped water and retardant on the active edges of the fire. Heavy equipment operators are building fire guards to the southwest of Fort McMurray and will work overnight, as well as 3 night vision helicopters will also work overnight to drop water on the active edges of the fire. At this time, there are currently 141 firefighters, 21 helicopters, and 57 pieces of heavy equipment currently assigned to this wildfire. Firefighters are also working on structure protection in the Abasan neighborhood. Structure protection has been put in place for the Prairie Creek and Beacon Hill neighborhoods, as well as on Rickards Landing Industrial Park and Gregoire Lake Estates. Now to the evacuees. Security in the evacuated neighborhoods is a priority. RCMP have brought in around an additional 40 members to assist in the evacuated areas, whether it's roaming patrols, checkpoints, and just general security of the residential areas. All utilities remain active in the neighborhoods under the evacuation order. So that means power still going, water, that sort of thing. Now, whether you're on evacuation alert or you've been evacuated, they've added significant information to the rmwb.ca/alerts webpage. There's all sorts of information there, so if you have any questions, go check out those resources. Now, over the next several days, the wind is supposed to get more favorable. As of this evening, the wind is now coming from the northeast, so it's pushing the head of the fire to the southwest. The forecast for Thursday, May 16th, is the wind will be blowing directly out of the east, pushing the fire to the west. And then on Friday, we will see a wind shift once again from blowing from the east to blowing from the north, to where it will continue to blow out of starting off the May long weekend. Now, with the forecasted change in weather, this means that the western and the southern edges of this fire are going to become more active, where the wind is going to be pushing that fire in that direction. Also, what this means is that the northeast edge of this fire is going to become less active, which should give fire crews time to deal with doing better containment and extinguishment, so that way when the wind eventually does shift and start pushing back in this direction, that they've got good containment on this side and it's no longer threatening the community. However, in the situation of this little guy right here, if they have to pull resources off the big fire to go and deal with little fires, that can definitely strain that. And that's why, as of today, a fire ban and an off-highway vehicle restriction is in fact for not only the forest protection area in the Fort McMurray area, but also the RM of Wood Buffalo, the city of Fort McMurray as well. And hey, I absolutely get it. It's May long weekend. Everybody wants to go camping. Everybody wants to go cruising around on their quad side by side. Everybody wants to go catch some fish. I completely understand. But at this time, we don't want to accidentally get other fires going, which then pulls resources away, which then could potentially prolong the evacuation of those that are away from home right now. It's all about helping each other out. So let's help each other out. Now, panning west to the county of Grand Prairie, we have excellent news there. The TP Creek fire is now classified as being held. So same as the Valhalla fire, the fire is now at a status of being held. Given current weather conditions and resources, the wildfire is not anticipated to grow past expected boundaries. Crews will continue to work and monitor the area. The best part about this is the evacuation order has now been downgraded to an alert for the affected areas. This means people can return home, but unfortunately, they still have to be prepared to leave on a moment's notice just in case conditions do flare up again. And now panning even further to the west, we have good news, not great news, but we have good news for the town of Fort Nelson, British Columbia. The fire weather that was supposed to come in and push that fire front towards the town on Monday didn't materialize. The winds were a lot calmer, which means that that fire did not impact the town or impinge the town whatsoever. The fire still continues to burn out of control around the town of Fort Nelson, so the evacuation order still stands. However, the town hasn't been impinged at this time, and they're hoping that this pattern continues and they can just improve on this wildfire fight. And as we can see from the outline here, the Parker Lake fire is just kind of wrapping around the southern edge of Fort Nelson, but not completely. But the one that did kind of take off here is the Patry Lake fire to the north. This was a holdover fire by the looks of it that did a big run as soon as the weather warmed up and the winds picked up, which seems to be the challenge that BC Wildfire is faced with right now. Because we have so many holdover fires that weren't extinguished through the winter season, a lot of them are going from being held to out of control because of the windy conditions, hot, dry weather, that sort of thing. Now, completely reversing directions, I want to touch on a wildfire I haven't spoke about yet. This is the one located outside of Flin Flon, Manitoba, that forced the evacuation of Cranberry Portage on Saturday, May 11th. Now, in this table provided by the government of Manitoba, you can see how quickly and how violently that this wildfire erupted and why they chose to evacuate Cranberry Portage. It went from 20 hectares up to 2,000, up to 31,000 within a 2-day span. Luckily, after this, the fire behavior lessened and it slowed down, and it's currently sitting at about 31,600. This fire acted so erratically that an official with the Manitoba Fire Service said he's never seen anything like this in his 40 years of fighting fire. But there is hope on the horizon. Now, even though this fire is still very much active and it's covering a large area, Manitoba officials are saying that residents may be able to go home soon. Now, this is going to be strictly depending on weather, fire behavior, that sort of thing. So hoping for precipitation, rain, calmer winds to allow the firefighters to get a handle on this fire and protect the community. Okay, wow, that was a lot of information, and it's probably the longest update video. It's actually probably the longest video that I've done to date, period. So I appreciate everybody who stayed to the bitter end. If you did, put red fire in the comments, so that way I know you stayed to the end, because it's much appreciated, and you deserve a pat on the back for that one. I'm hoping that this information was super helpful. For the most part, it looks like things are improving based on calmer weather, not severe wind. Hopefully that trend continues to allow fire crews in multiple provinces to get a handle on these situations and allow residents to return home to their communities. As always, if you liked this video, you found it helpful, informative, please give it a like, share it out to some people that you feel could benefit from this information. And if you're looking for any more updates and wildfire type information, follow along for more. Thank you very much, and stay safe out there, everyone.